Hey everybody, I just wanted to make a video just about my thoughts on DPS parses lately. Uh, while I was working on my build and doing a DPS test, a lot of people were telling me if I wanted to get a higher number that I should switch over to the lover for self-buff DPS testing. And I would make the argument with these players like, why? Like, that's not the build that I'm going to be running in the trial. And they'd say, well, for solo content and for PvP, that's what you would run, is the lover. But after looking at the resistances in places like VMA, which a lot of people kind of think of when they think of solo content for DPS, the majority of the resistances in there are 12.1k, with only 2 bosses really being higher than that, towards the typical 18k. Now, in Dungeons and Trials, all bosses have that 18.2k. I think it's 18.3, but we all get 100% or 100 points penetration on our character, so it's effectively 18.2k. So on my Mage Blade, for example, you get 4,800 and 84 penetration for wearing light armor. You get 5280 for having either puncture or Ellie Drain applied to a boss, and those don't stack, by the way, if you weren't certain. A tank having Alkosh on with Crusher enchantment. So yeah, Alkosh, I believe that's both resistances, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it's just physical resistance. But as I was working through my build, a lot of people were telling me that it's not important to actually achieve 100% penetration, because you would get more return on investment from CP if you didn't achieve 100%. Like, I think the closest I came, I was like 104 off when I stacked everything up and then added points into CP. But some very experienced players told me that it would be better off to put points into other things, like, let's say, Elfborn and Elemental Expert and Thaumaturge, and less into spell erosion, because your effective damage is actually increased by doing so, even though you're not hitting 100% penetration. So the reason that I want to talk about this is because I feel that right now we kind of have two different sets of DPS tests. We have people that run a DPS test with their character to achieve the highest number, and then we have people testing with the character that they're going to use in the content, and there's a big divide between those two numbers. Now, with my Mage Blade, I worked hard on my rotation to get his parse up as high as I possibly could without spending like a crazy amount of time. And a rotation is something that you have to work on, and the more time you put into it, the better you'll get, and you'll find subtle little nuanced ways to increase your DPS for you personally, depending on the character. And I just found that after putting in all the work that I had and achieving, let's say, I just posted a DPS parse of 34.5k because somebody that runs trials wanted to get a video of my parse. So I made that and then sent that off to them. But then you see players saying, well, it's not 35k. And as I've played this game for a while, and I've played with a lot of the players that are on the NA, and some of the best, if not the best, I've been lucky enough to play with. And the ones that run specifically trials will tell you that it's more important that you can execute your rotation from any point. Like, if you get up or if you have to move around, you can just seamlessly pick up your rotation from that point and carry it out, and that's important, whereas the number's not so important. And if you truly spec your character, I don't know about all characters, I can't speak on that. I'm more competitive with my Mage Blade than with any other character, but if you spec, let's say, my Mage Blade to be best in slot for trials, it's considerably harder for me to hit the 35k than some players that would swap some things around or add the lover in and then have that 35k plus DPS parts. But effectively in a trial, it's not going to be best suited for that content. And I'm not attacking anybody whatsoever for the way that they run their characters. And I think that there's a big part of this is the competitive nature of players. But I truly do think this creates a false bottom it creates like a two-tier DPS testing system. And when, even before we got the test dummies, and we used to test on blood spawn or slime craw or whatever, I remember the first thing that I seen people test on were mammoths. I think it was a Jekyll video where he would show damage parses from attacking a mammoth in, I want to say Riften. And that was just to illustrate the type of damage that it could put out. And I feel that now that we have these test dummies, or even sorry to finish my point, even then we didn't allow external buffs. Like obviously spell power cure isn't allowed, Warhorn, certain other external buffs we don't allow, even though those are what we use in the trial. We don't allow them because it really doesn't make a difference, right? Like that's not the point. The point isn't to get the high number. Truly the DPS test is just to show that you can execute a rotation. And obviously us being competitive, we want to get the highest number possible. And I've even ran with some people for the longest time. I would keep Harness Magicka and put Ellie Drain where Inner Light was. And that right there is kind of too extreme, because I'm actually changing my build, because a lot of people want you to have your damage shield on when you do a DPS parse, because then that's more indicative of like your bars would be the same as in the trial or in the dungeon or what have you that you're running. But by removing Inner Light and slotting Ellie Drain on my back bar just so I can facilitate that shield, it actually decreases my DPS, which isn't a big thing, but it's only recently have I swapped out Harness Magicka to put in Ellie Drain. I don't know with the Sork how that would work, because the Hardened Ward actually has passives that would affect your DPS, so maybe that's not the best option for that class there. But so the whole point is that we want to try to keep things as close to what we're running in the content as possible, and by removing things like I run Balkan Scoria on my DPS on my Match Blade, and it has a 1 slot bonus of maximum health. That's not going to affect my DPS whatsoever. It's not gonna help it one bit. Whereas if I go in for the case of the DPS test, add in something that gives me either a one-piece crit or max magicka, that would increase my DPS, yet that's not what I would be running in trials. The same case could be made for like your max food, your food. Now, on my Match Blade, I can make it by with running the blue max food, max health in a trial, but the trial leaders that I run with would much rather me have more sustain on my build. So they've all seemed to, like, universally want you to run Witch Mother's Potent Brew and then just add Marianne Scoria or something like that, so you have more durability, because obviously Witch Mother's Potent Brew doesn't give you the same amount of health bonus that the max health, max magicka would. So that brings you below 16,000, and a lot of things unmitigated can hit you for just around that 16,000 mark. So I think these things all combined to truly create a false bottom, and then a divide between players that are in earnestly trying to do the best they can with a player in the content, versus players that have min-max certain things that they have no intention of taking into trials, or that if they tried they'd be discouraged from experienced trials leaders. So I would just like to ask if we could come to some kind of consensus on if we should be running the Lover. I've watched a few videos. A lot of people point me to and I'm not. It's irrelevant. Like, we all know who provides a lot of beneficial content to this game, so I don't want to put any names out there whatsoever. I do appreciate D-Pencil1 for providing the VMA rundown on penetration. You put a lot of work into that, and I'd like to say thanks to all the people on YouTube and Twitch that provide a lot of content that gives us a basis to go off of. So this isn't supposed to be an attack video or a snipe at anybody or anything. The videos that I've seen with players achieving some really high numbers, switching to the lover and changing their monster sets are very qualified, like incredible players, and regardless of what they wear, that's not going to change the fact. So I would pay, like, I will give dues to all the players that provide content and you know, give us something to go off of. But I do think that there's a lot of players that get discouraged when they see something like looking for a 35k DPS for VMall, and yet they don't hit that threshold with their trial specific build, yet we'll bring in a 40k stam DK or 40k plus stam DK that really can't sustain that rotation. Now 40k, that means you're killing the test dummy in about a minute and like 15 seconds. I don't even know, but it's low. Like you're gonna kill that thing pretty quickly. That's not indicative of what you're gonna experience in a trial. I think the boss in Asylum Centurion has like 110 million health, so obviously you're gonna be there for longer than a minute and 15 seconds. So having players that push up or inflate the DPS parses purely because they're competitive and they want to, you know, we all want to post videos or we all want to like brag about our high DPS and stuff. But I think it's important that we kind of come to a consensus when it comes to what the testing threshold is. And now with the lover, I know a case can be made by people that, well, you're self-buffing, so that's why you should have it, because in a trial the tank would be applying a crusher enchantment and puncture, and I agree with that. But again, it's not the build that you're taking in there, and it just really complicates the matter, which is already kind of a dynamic situation to begin with. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I'm sorry for the long-winded video, but yeah, I've been talking some friends' ears off, and I just thought I'd put that out into the air. The reason, if you're wondering why I'm attacking this big old dumb Centurion, is because I'm pretty stubborn. And the people that know me know that, and I really like scathing mage, and I can't help but feel that if you have above 50% crit, and I think my crit, depending on how I slot my skills and stuff, with scathing mage I would probably really try to find a way to put soul harvest on my front bar, because it gives more passive crit. But I really feel if you have 50 plus crit and scathing mage procs off 20% of all crits, then, or not all crits. I seen a rundown on Tamriel's Foundry. Somebody was nice enough to do some testing, and while it's not every bit of damage that you can do, like I think he was talking about monster homes and stuff like that, it does provide some insight into what exactly does proc scathing mage. And I think it was really weird. Like the first tick of elemental blockade would proc it, but no subsequent ticks. Every proc of Twisted Path had a chance of proccing it. The initial direct damage from Crippling Grasp would proc it, as well as the dot from Crippling Grasp had a chance to proc it. But either way, I don't that's not important. But my point is that I really truly feel that Scathing Mage over a longer duration would outperform Julianos, but it didn't seem to be the case. I couldn't get the results I wanted. I know Burning Spellweave is a very viable set for Mage Blades for DPS, but I deleted that kind of when they nerfed it. I was just carrying around too much gear, and I thought, you know what, it just got nerfed. It's probably not going to be an option for a bit, so I'll just get rid of it and it'll give me something to farm later on. And right after I did that, I seen a build that had Burning Spellweave in it that was doing really good in a DPS test, and that individual didn't use the lever. I think they had started off the one video they'd used the lever, but then to conform more to pure trials and dungeon well, maybe not dungeons, but anyways, to pure trials DPS testing, they had swapped it out for the apprentice and were performing really well with it. So I don't know if they used elemental or if they used the exploiter passive or not, but which, yeah, I'm not even gonna get into that. That's not what this video is about. But so yeah, that's why. That's why I'm actually beating on this Centurion. But again, I just couldn't. I couldn't get higher with Skating Mage than I could with Juliana's. So, suffice to say, I was wrong. At least I was, anyways. Now the rotation's not like I didn't know. I didn't think I should start executing at 25% because I wouldn't have been able to sustain it. And it would probably take a lot more testing, and I don't think I'm ever gonna do that again. But now I can say I at least did it once, right? But thank you very much for watching the video. Please add your thoughts to the comments below and enjoy the game. Take care, everybody.